Alrighty, good afternoon everyone. It's nice to see you again. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce my colleague and co-director of the International Economics program, Professor Chris Arroyo. We're here for the next 40 minutes to give you an outline of the program you have to participate in economics. Those of you who have an economics background know that we are a monopoly. You have no choice except to deal with us if you come here, but we're a bunch of lovely people in economics. There's 10 full-time faculty members in economics and about 24 adjuncts. We are the largest program in the school because we teach so many people. We teach about 35% of the courses. Many of you will find you actually take more than the minimum required number of economics courses during your time here. So as you've heard earlier this morning at the faculty panel, some of you may actually find you like economics. I understand it could be hard to believe right now, but it does actually happen. But because SAIS is unique in that everybody who comes to SAIS has to do international economics as a concentration, they give us this time to forewarn you and explain to you what that entails. And so Professor Arroyo and I are going to go over for about 20 minutes the details of the concentration requirements for international economics and some of the other special features about doing economics at SAIS, and then we'll open the floor up to questions. I will encourage you, if you have not yet done so, to look at page 13, and they do that on purpose to us. At the economics requirement page in your I guess it's the Open House book. It summarizes what we're going to talk about, but there's a lot of words there, and we're going to try to go through it in a bit of a systematic fashion. And if you have questions as we go along, as I said, we'll open up the floor at the end for at least 15 or 20 minutes of questions. So I want to talk about this in parts. The first thing that many of you are aware of or need to be aware of is that there is a pre-matriculation requirement in economics for SAIS. And that means you have to have completed a undergraduate freshman level economics principles training before you can matriculate at SAIS. Many of you knew that it's actually treated as a application requirement, but we kind of waive it for some people. But if you've been admitted, you either got an admissions letter because you have already completed an introductory training in micro and macroeconomics or principles of economics, or some of you got a conditional acceptance letter. That conditional acceptance letter requires you to complete that requirement before you can come. And so what this means is what we look for is essentially a freshman level, a 101, 100 level course. The easiest way to do it is in a single principles course where you get a bit of both microeconomics and macroeconomics in a single one-semester course. And SAIS actually offers an online principles course for that very purpose, which it runs several times in the spring. The alternative way to do this is to take a online course, another online course, or take a course at at your local university college or community college in economic principles, or if they don't offer economic principles, or you had previously taken microeconomics or macroeconomics at the freshman level, you need to take the other one or both of them. So you either do it by taking a unified principles course for one semester, or if the offerings you have access to are microeconomics and macroeconomics, you have to take them both. So strong emphasis on trying to find the unified principles course if you haven't done it at this point. But that's a requirement for you to show up. The guards at the door won't let you in when you come if you don't meet that requirement. Now, what do we do once you get here? The International Economics concentration has a set of required courses. And unlike most of the other concentrations, economics is a very tiered structure. You have to take the first level courses, pass those before you get into the second level courses. So we have a very clear prerequisite structure, and I will encourage you to be aware of that when you look at the courses you're interested in taking, that you need to plan appropriately so that you have the prerequisites in hand to be able to do them. The first level requirement is that we're going to redo microeconomics and macroeconomics at an intermediate level. So any of you who had friends who were econ majors, or if you, in undergrad, these are essentially the sophomore level courses in micro and macroeconomic theory. What distinguishes them from principles, and we'll talk about in a bit, is they use math. Because we're no longer just saying, oh, the curve shifts up or down. We need to know how much it shifts up or down. How much will interest rates rise? How much will output change? So we have to be able to quantify these things, and that involves equations. And as a result, we're going to require a basic facility with high school algebra and graphing as a necessary tool for you to be able to do this. And as we'll talk, we have some math. There's going to be a math test you need or certification you need to pass in order to be able to do this. And if you struggle or you haven't done math in a while, and I understand you can actually get an undergraduate degree in the United States now without taking a math course in college. We have an online course we'll talk about, the online/DVD course that lets you do that. Or if you really struggle, we offer during preterm a math for economics course to help. But the math, I will tell you right off the thing, is the primary problem people face in getting through the microeconomics and macroeconomics. But it's not hardcore math. We're not doing green integrals and things. We're doing simultaneous equations. You've got a supply and a demand equation. You have to solve them at the same time and come up with the solution. If you haven't done this in a while, it's a little intimidating. It's like riding a bike and having not ridden a bike for a long time. It's a little rickety the first time you get on, but we have professionals here who will help you with that. So the requirements once you get here for the concentration, the pre-admissions thing has nothing to do with the requirements for the master's degree. It's just to get in the door. Once you get here, you have to take our microeconomics and macroeconomics courses, which are intermediate level, and which require, as we said, facility with math. Since we are an international economics program, the next core level courses are international trade and international monetary. To get into trade, you have to have completed in microeconomics. To get into monetary, you have to have completed macroeconomics. Not in the same semester, but ahead of time. And so after you've done micro, macro, trade, and money, 4 courses, and those are 4 fundamental theory policy courses. They're a combination of theory and practical application. You then are allowed to take from my remaining 33 courses in our program, you're required to take 2 electives. But they have to be electives that are listed on the economics program website of offered courses. There are lots of other courses at SAIS and other programs that have the term economics in them. If they are not listed on our website, they do not count towards the concentration, international economic concentration. As I said, we've got 30 plus. You shouldn't have a hard time finding 2 of them that match your interests or preferences. And we'll talk, Professor Arroyo will talk a little bit about specializations for people who want to do more than 2. But the minimum effort you need to get the MA degree is to complete microeconomics, macroeconomics, international trade, international monetary, and 2 electives, 6 courses. I'll pause for a moment. The silence is deafening. Now, that said, I can tell you, having been here 12 years, that one of the most common things people say at graduation is the only shared experience you have at SAIS that everybody goes through is economics. And it's that thing that pulls you together, and it's that you're going to get together in 20 years when you have a reunion and talk about. Do you remember that macroeconomics course? Wasn't that just crazy? Yeah, it's a unifying experience at SAIS. Everybody does it, and we do it because it's an important component of international affairs. You think about the problems it face. I mean, there's security problems, and then there are basically economic problems. And development you cannot do without economics. At least 50% of development, when you talk to professionals, relates to issues of economics. So our goal is to give you a broad understanding of the tools of economics. You can then choose to apply them in lots of different ways. And I said there are lots of other courses around the school that use economics, as Eric Jones talked about earlier today, that they may not necessarily be part of the economics program, but you will find that some of these political scientist faculty up here we're talking about actually use economics in their courses. We never use political science in our economics courses, but they actually use economics. Now, For some of you who have a background in economics, we have ways out of having to do all 6 courses. We have waiver exams, and I'm going to let Professor Arroyo talk about those. The couple caveats I want to alert you to is that even if you waive out of courses, you must do at least 4 courses in the International Economics program. So if you came in and you were able to waive out of micro, macro, trade, and money, you'd have to do 4 electives instead of 2, because the minimum number of courses, and this is the key thing, not counting micro and macro. So the minimum number of courses beyond micro and macro you need to take is 4. So if you waived out of everything, micro, macro, trade, and money, you have to replace trade and money with 2 electives. So the magic number to keep in your mind is micro and macro plus 4. And if you aren't able to waive out of micro or macro in some way, you end up having to do at least 6 courses. Now that said, the math is very simple. I've looked at it every year. The average SAIS student takes 7.1 economics courses while they're here. And I've seen people take 12. So it is possible, despite everything you've heard earlier, that economics could be your most popular of the 2 concentrations. There's nothing wrong about that. If you feel that way, that's perfectly acceptable. That, hey, the international economics concentration is the one I'm really the most interested in, and I'll pick one of the other ones because I got to do a second concentration. That's okay. I mean, sometimes you get the feeling that economics is just to check the box. Some people come here, and rightly so, because we are the international affairs school that emphasizes economics and offers the largest array of economics courses of any of the international affairs schools. Plus, we make you take at least 6. You will walk out of this degree able to understand what's going on in standard international and domestic policy economic discussions. That doesn't mean you're going to be an expert. I'm not even an expert in everything. I mean, barely I'm an expert in international finance, which is a little sliver of economics. But I can understand what's going on in other fields because I have that basic training in microeconomics, macroeconomics, and applied areas. That said, I will say one last thing about, I talked about the mathematics. I want to go back to that. History has shown one thing very clearly, and that is if you are not prepared for the level, for being able to do essentially what I'll call 10th or 11th grade mathematics, Algebra 2, right? Everybody took Algebra 2 in high school at some point. You forgot about it as soon as you walked out because you're thinking, why do I possibly need this? You needed it because you were going to come to SAIS, right? So you need to refresh those skills. For many of you, that was, could have been as much as 10 years ago. That is the most critical thing we've found in terms of people getting a good start at SAIS, is having those math skills refreshed. We're not asking you to do anything we know you can't or haven't already done. You just need to bring them back up out of long-term memory. We have, for the first time this year, as the Dean Harrington mentioned in his introductory remarks, an online self-study course to go along with the Dean Harrington's DVDs on the pre-calculus, and he said a set of calculus DVDs. Now, I'll warn you, we don't require you to understand the calculus. You will learn it in the courses here as you need it, but I strongly recommend, if you get yourself up to speed with the pre-calculus, that you take a look and work through some of the basic calculus stuff. Basically, taking a derivative and optimizing. Right? If I'm trying to figure out how a firm maximizes profits, I set up the profit function and I take the first derivative and I solve for the maximum. That's basically what we're talking about in using calculus. Nothing more than that. If you've never seen calculus, we will teach it to you. You can either learn it yourself through the DVDs, because Dean Harrington is a fabulous teacher. He was nominated for an Oscar for those DVDs. Or we will have our tremendous microeconomics faculty teach it to you. And I will note, just as a side, one of our microeconomics instructors, because it's in microeconomics, just yesterday was announced as having won the Teacher of the Year award at SAIS. So we put the best people we have teaching the basic core courses, because you got to know that stuff to be able to move on in economics. And we really encourage you, the most important course you're going to take in economics at SAIS is microeconomics, and you need the math to be ready for it. It's not hard math, but if you haven't done math in 5 or 6 years, you're going to need to spend some time doing it. That said, we will require you to demonstrate online that you can pass a math assessment test, or if you don't do that, when you show up on the first day of the microeconomics class, you will take a math assessment test. If you do not pass that test, you will be required to do some additional math remedial work, which will be supervised by another one of my instruction staff. Because, as we've said, if you don't know this, you're going to struggle with micro, and it's the most important concepts for you to understand. So we've set up a very new elaborate structure to help you with the mathematics, but there's no way of getting out of it. We've closed down all the loopholes that used to exist. And, you know, so I proposed it. I brought in a couple students. I said, look at this. How would you get around it? They said, there's no way around it. I said, good. That's exactly what we want. You know, that's what Congress needs to do, is hire a couple SAIS students to say, how would you get around these new regulations? Oh, we do this, this, and this. Well, there's no way around this. You either do the online stuff before you come, and you can start that as soon as you send in your acceptance. They'll send you some information, including the DVDs and access to the online Blackboard course where you can work through this and take the test at the end of that, and we let you take it a couple times, or at least more than one, I think twice, right?
We let them do it online once, and then if they don't make it through the online, then they get to take it on the first day.
You get to take it in paper when you come.
Yeah.
You do that at preterm, or you do that in the fall. There's no way around it. And again, we're doing that simply because we don't want you to get behind the curve in your first semester. And all we're warning you about is that being able to do high school algebra and a little bit of pre-calculus, working with powers, because occasionally we compound or we discount things. You simply have to know what's 1 plus x squared. If you expand the quantity 1 plus x squared, what do you get? And if you have to set that equal to 0, what are the roots? I mean, you remember that stuff. You've all done it. But economics has that to it. Everybody's going to go through it. You can find your favorite partner at SAIS and commiserate during the classes about doing math. But it's just part of learning policy economics. And trust me, at the end, people come out saying, I know now how to do this stuff, and that's a real skill. And I'll give you a hint. Employers look for real skills. Okay, so let me at this point turn it over to Professor Arroyo, who's going to talk to you about preterm waivers and the specializations.
Hello, everyone. I want the nature of the topics that I have to discuss with you concern mainly, principally those who have some advanced knowledge of econ, or who are willing to commit some time to acquiring it in advance of arriving to SAIS. So let me begin with preterm. Right? Preterm is essentially, as the name connotes, it's actually a session that we hold right before the regular fall term at SAIS begins. This preterm is scheduled for July. It's done both here in Washington, D.C. and in Bologna campus. And what it entails is essentially, it entails a little more than 4 weeks. I think it's about 5 weeks of course. It's a 5-week period during which we cover essentially the same topics that we would cover in the regular term: micro, macro, and accelerated micro economics courses. Right? Now, in other words, what does it entail? It entails you coming here sometime in July if you're interested in doing this, and essentially getting the micro and macro coursework done before coming to the regular term. And if you're already ahead of the average person, you could take accelerated micro instead of micro. Right? But that mainly is one avenue whereby you, whether or not you have prior economics background, can fulfill the prerequisites of the MA program as regards economics. So micro, macro, you can do that in preterm. For information on that, I'd like to refer you to the preterm website. I think there were other. Was there a preterm discussion earlier today? No. Yeah. Well, we do have a preterm site on our page on our website, and they discuss the schedule, the character of the costs of preterm, and all the other requirements associated therein. But it's a way for you to achieve the prerequisites in advance of coming here, or some of the prerequisites, micro and macro specifically. The other way that you could fulfill a prerequisite is by waiving out of it, but this is only if you already have in hand an equivalent set of courses or equivalent course to the one that you would like to be waived out of, right? And this is where the waiver exams come in. Here at SAIS, the waivers are not granted, outright. By credentials only. We ask for, we ask for proof of your ability by both certification and demonstration. The certification part comes from your transcript. We will look for an equivalent course to be there on your transcript if you seek to be waived out of a course here. And if you don't, and if you have that, then we will ask you, at least for the basic courses, to demonstrate it by taking and passing a waiver exam. These waiver exams are given at specific cycles in the year. They're not given on demand, but only during specific cycles. So you will need to be aware of that. And what are they? They're online. Most of them are online. The ones in the fall term are proctored on site on campus, but the other ones are to be taken online. And what they are is that they're basically just qualifying exams in micro, macro, trade, monetary, and statistics as well. For those of you who have statistics is not a required course, but it's often a prerequisite for econometrics and other courses that are sometimes attractive to people. So those are the 5 courses for which we offer waiver exams in. For micro and macro, you need to have an intermediate level course on transcript. It's not good enough to have a basic micro or principles of micro or principles of macro course. We need to have macro theory 2 or principles, or not principles, but intermediate level micro indicated on your course outline and course transcript, right, rather. And if it's there, then we'll approve it. And you can take the online exam on the schedules that are out there, right? The particulars of the waiver exam, all the rules and the schedules are to be found on our program website under the section that has waiver exams. Right. I oversee the waiver exams. The process for that is if you have an equivalent course already in hand, you can apply by emailing a specific email address. That address is econwaiver@jhu.edu. I think it's mentioned here, and send your transcript and also indicate which courses you want to attempt the waiver exam for, and then we'll look at it and approve you for it. If you're approved for it, you take the waiver exam on schedule, you pass or you fail. If you pass, you don't have to take that course. Instead, you go on to the next level course, right? I should note that because of the 4-course minimum requirement, if you waive out of trade and money, you need to replace those courses with an alternative elective, right? And so if you have questions about the waiver exam, the first place to look at is to look at the site waiver exams under our program website, under the International Economics Program website. I oversee the waiver exam, so I'm going to end up talking to you, some of you eventually. But most questions can be answered with reference to the material on that website. And then you can email either myself or the administrator at econwaiver@jhu.edu with questions, right? Now, these are ways of getting through the required courses. And you do this for a couple of reasons, one being that you just would like to absolve yourself of the econ requirements as soon as possible. And since you already have fulfilled them perhaps by prior coursework, that can be done fairly efficiently through the waiver exam. The other reason is because you want to take the waiver exams and get out of these courses so that you can actually take more courses in econ. And if you have that capacity to take not maybe 6 courses, micro, macro, trade, money, and the 2 electives, but 8 courses, right? And that's possible in the span of 2 years if you can waive out of a few of the required ones. Right? You can take something like on the order of 8 courses in total, counting, of course, the required ones, which hopefully some of which will be waived if you can do that or achieve it in preterm. Then it makes it possible for you to possibly do a specialization. And we have, at this juncture, 3 specializations, one in quantitative methods, another in in finance. Is it corporate finance? International finance. Sorry, not corporate, but international finance, and a third specialization in development. Now, what are these specializations? They do not really involve. They don't constitute a separate concentration, right? But they do allow us to indicate on your transcript that you have taken courses which we deem to be sufficient to consider you, more or less specialized in these areas, right? So in addition to your macro trade money, to achieve a specialization, your electives, you will probably need to take 4 more courses, right? And these would be the 2 electives you take plus the 2 that would be, of relevance to the specialization in question. Now, the specializations often have specific electives that they would like you to take. For example, for quantitative methods, we require everybody who's looking to do that specialization to have econometrics, right? So that means that you have to have statistics beforehand, and then you have to have econometrics. So you have to plan accordingly. If you can map this out so that you can achieve the required coursework under a specialization, we will give you that designation on transcript. What are the required requirements for each specialization? These can be found on our program website under this heading, specializations. Right? And there's a structure to them, as there should be, right? For instance, for the finance specialization, everybody has to have corporate finance, because that's the core theory that you need to be able to do finance in general. And then after that, you can pick from several lists, right? But they all involve taking more than the normal amount of econ courses that we require, which some of you will end up doing anyway. I mean, especially the ones who are able to waive out of 1 or 2 econ requirements, or take a preterm and get micro or macro done there, okay. Right? So I think I'll leave it at that, and that way we can have some time for questions.
Okay, very good. I will open up the floor if people have questions about any of the economics requirements. Up here.
Hi. I like economics.
Good.
And if I come here, it'll be in part because of the strength of the economics. And I'm wondering, we heard a lot today about the strengths of the other concentrations as far as funding and trips and networking experiences. And I noticed that you don't have a lunch session for economics. And I'm wondering, yes, it's required. Do you have students that just have one concentration, presumably with a specialization as well? Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, are they shortchanged in some ways on, travel, et cetera?
Well, I mean, you remember, you have to do 2 concentrations at SAIS, yep. Economics being 1, so you have to choose amongst the other 17 or whatever concentrations. Those tend to be considered your home concentration. Though we have a group of students we consider our core set of students. They usually are people who act as TAs for our courses. We invite those students to our talks. We generally don't bring in policy wonks to talk. We bring in other academics to give more academic study papers. So we do a little bit more, because we're a group of 10 academics, so we actually have a academic seminar. And so our speaker series tends to be more other academics coming and giving research, as opposed to somebody coming and talking about what's going on. Though we do that a couple times a year, usually have a practical policy chat. But we also have a lot of student groups within economics, an international finance club, a trade club, a consulting club. They will organize a lot of activities that will draw in faculty as well as outside students. So you can have an identity as a core group of students within economics, but you still have to have this other concentration, and they tend to be the ones that do more social activities than economics, because we're just so big, we'd have to open it up to everybody as a program, and at 600, wine and cheese for 600 blows our budget right there. Yeah. But what we do is we do have special things that we do for our core students, which are generally the teaching assistants and the RAs.
Can I also say something in relation to that? I mean, if you're one of those students who doesn't really want to do a specialization and doesn't really want to do that much econ, you'd be fine. You will get what you need and perhaps more than you expected, hopefully. Those of you who are interested in the subject are much encouraged to think about possibly specializing, but even that I don't even necessarily recommend. I think the best strategy is just take the courses that make sense for you. And, whether that leads to a specialization in one area or another, that's of secondary importance relative to what you pick up that you think is relevant for your career trajectory, right? So, those of you who are in a position to do more, we encourage you to, take more under our program. That's certainly welcome. And, if it is beneficial to you, consider the specializations, which give you a sort of like a bit of a structure, but even that is not required. So just, those of you who are looking to do more econ, you're welcome. Those of you who are happy to do, the bare minimum, then you'll come out ahead anyway, right? But, again, those of you who have more background will end up, trying to take advantage of some of our, of our things like specializations, our academic seminars, and other activities that we will do from time to time, the clubs and such. Okay?
Other questions? Way in the...
Will. Hang on. Okay. Go ahead. In the back. Yeah.
My name is Ted. I am DC IntDev. Wondering, in an MBA program, for instance, there might be a business slant to the way economics is taught. This is a program that's very international and has a slight policy focus. Is there a policy slant to the way that economics is taught?
If I'll open, you can add to this. Basically, we try to cover several bases. We do have quite a few courses that are of a finance nature. And in fact, we do have finance specialization, which will lead, which are for people who like that stuff. Many of those courses are very much like the courses you would see at an MBA in an MBA program. In particular, for example, the corporate finance course, which Professor Bodnar here teaches, that is the exact same course that he used to teach when and I don't know if you do this still, but he used to do this at Wharton for the MBA program. So you get that too. But that said, we think that we cover more than we're not narrowly business or narrowly only policy or only development. We have really a range of courses you can select from, and we try to generally fill out 2 areas, or rather 3 areas. One is the international finance area, another area is development, and another area is like methods and policy, right? And that's in that sense we don't have necessarily only one slant.
Yeah. I think another way to answer your question is we're not a group of theorists. I mean, this isn't an economic theory program. It's nothing like a PhD program. The purpose of economics here is to help you understand international relations. I mean, whether you're learning trade, monetary. I mean, we've had lots of people go through this program and go on to great policy positions. The head of the Canadian Central Bank was a SAIS grad. Our Secretary of the Treasury is currently Timothy Geithner's a graduate of SAIS. That's the most economics training he ever took. He doesn't have a PhD in economics. So we're quite confident that the economics we provide you is sufficient for just about any policy level position you would want, short of coming up with the next great development in theoretical economics, where you probably would want to do a PhD to get the mathematics you need to do that. But for policy purposes, the level of our courses, we use the mathematics because you need to up to some point, but ultimately the purpose of it is to help you understand what's going on in terms of public policy and government policy and economic outcomes that we see in the real world. Good. Next question. Right up here. We've got about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Hi, I looked at the list of courses online and I saw that there is an accelerated macro, micro, and trade theory and monetary theory. What's the difference between that and the regular one? And also, is there a list of the prerequisites? You mentioned that micro's a prereq for a trade and macro for monetary. Is there a list of the other prereqs so that students can plan out there?
Okay. Thank you for asking that, because I realized I had on my list to talk about accelerated versions of the courses and I hadn't. We offer in micro, macro, trade, and money an accelerated version of each one of those courses. The accelerated version is designed for students who are really interested in that topic and want to go sit in that, take that class and go a little bit deeper than they would in the normal class. It'll assume, the accelerated courses will assume that you're comfortable with the basic mathematics, so they don't spend as much time kind of going over the math techniques, but it's just it's like an honors section. It's a group of students who are really interested in the topic, willing to work a little harder. You can go a little faster and a little deeper than you otherwise would have. And I know what goes through everybody's mind. You're thinking, there's no way I'm ready for that group. But the answer for most of you, if you're an undergrad, if you did some undergraduate economics, you're really interested in economics, as long as your math is, you're comfortable with doing math or comfortable learning math, accelerated courses are something you should really think about, because usually the key instructor in each area is the person assigned to that group, because it's really, we could have called it honors if this was an undergraduate program, but we don't use that terminology in graduate school, so we call it accelerated. As for the prerequisites, if you look at every course description on the web page, at the end of the course description, it will tell you what the prerequisites are for each one of those courses. And it is true that for almost all of the econ courses, micro and macro, roughly speaking, are one of the two of them at least is a prerequisite. So without a doubt, the things you want to do first in economics when you get here is do the microeconomics and do the macroeconomics, because that then opens up to you almost all the other courses. There are a few that will require you to have done trade or monetary, which you probably have to leave to your second year. But that said, I will encourage you, you do not want to leave trade or monetary till your second year, or till your, in your second year, your last semester.
Yeah.
Because there's always a chance that you don't pass.
Yeah.
And if you don't pass a required course, you got to come back in the summer. No two ways about it. It's not, can I take the exam again? No, you don't pass a required course in your last semester, you ain't graduating. Mm-hmm. On time. You will eventually graduate if you pass it, but it's such a pain to tell your employer that, you know what, I can't start on June 15th because I got to stay till July 15th to finish a course I failed in my last term. Take the required courses by your penultimate semester. And then you can relax and do whatever the heck you want. But I tell you, Professor Royal will tell you, it happens every year. 2 or 3 people wait and take a required course in their last, who have waited and taken it, end up not passing it, and we have to tell them we can't graduate you because you haven't met a required course. So that's a suggestion. If you come, in terms of planning, think about getting the macro trade and money done as soon as you can, because the stuff you learn there is going to help you in all the subsequent courses.
Yeah. And
There's time for one more, or are we? Okay. We will be outside. You guys are, before you need to run to your lunches, if anybody's got any final questions, Chris and I we can hang out here.
We'll be here for a few more minutes.
And there will be a table. There will be a table for economics after lunches, but you have to go to your other program.
That's right. So thank you very much.